All right, so we're now recording. Good afternoon. My name is Jen Bonet, and I'm the Executive Director of the Creative Coast, and you are joining us for a Thursday lunchtime topic. And we are here today with Dr. Davana Pilzic. I'm going to butcher her name, sorry, Pilzic. And she's a doctor, and she is from the Savannah region, although she's not here currently because she's caring for some elderly parent situation. But she's going to talk to us a lot about productivity, and specifically her talk is the 2 o'clock dip. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you. Okay, see if I can bring up my screen. All righty. All right, perfect.
You're good, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. So I'm Dr. Davana Pilzic. I'm a kinesiologist. I'll give you a brief background of who I am. I started out long ago in the sports industry. I used to work with athletes, primarily swimmers, but various different types of athletes. And so as a kinesiologist, our job is always to find a way to help people, athletes, really perform better. So we look at training regimes, we look at equipment and workout routines, we look at recovery, we look at fatigue, we look at sleep and diet, and pretty much anything that can go into somebody performing or not performing well. And so after I left the sports world, I went to the corporate world, and I ran several Fortune 500 ergonomics, wellness, and human performance programs. And so now I do my own thing where I go to different companies and sports teams, and I help them perform better. And so today I'm going to bring you kind of a really cool topic, which is about your physiology of your body, but you're going to learn it in a way that will help you be more productive in your day job and in lots of other aspects of your life. And so it's called the 2 o'clock dip, and you're actually going to learn about circadian rhythms. And so since we've got a small group, I'm going to pause now and again and just chime in and ask questions if you have any, because everybody can learn something from this. It applies to every single one of us. And so it's a really interesting topic. So my first question to any of you is basically, have you ever wanted to feel less stressed in your life, be more productive in whatever it is you're doing, whether it's your job, your hobbies, just anything you're interested in? Do you want to be more successful at what you're doing? Do you want to make better decisions in your personal life and in your professional life? And do you want to be more influential? Do you want to get more sales? Do you want to get more people to pay attention and listen to you? Do you want to land that interview or pass that test? So much of it depends on what time of day you do these things. And so before I get into the productivity side, I want to show you a little bit about what's going on, just happened last night when you were sleeping. And so this is a sleep graph, kind of a typical night's sleep. Let's start over here on the left. So these are the stages that you fall through in sleep during the night. And then along the bottom here is kind of the hours that you have been asleep in bed. And so if we start our night out last night, whenever you went to bed, let's just pretend it's midnight, okay? You fell asleep right around here. And what first happened is you started to fall into these different stages. And so stages 1 and 2, all you need to know with that is that they are basically for the brain. Stages 1 and 2 are really considered light sleep. And so it's the time that your brain has cognitive restoration. It's the time when the short-term memory moves to long-term. It's the time of night that your brain reviews today, what you learn on this webinar. It's going to be the person that you meet, their name, the new phone number that you learned. All of that gets processed. Arguments, things that are weighing on your subconscious, it gets processed during those light sleep times. Then in those deeper stages of 3 and 4, down here in the deeper blue, okay, you see those here, that's for your physical restoration. That's for when your body physically recovers and the cells repair themselves. So say maybe you went to the gym and you worked out hard today. Tonight is when your body will repair itself. Maybe you have a sinus infection. Maybe you have arthritis. Any of these things are going to get worked on and repaired during those deep stages of sleep. And so when you wake up in the morning, and when those rare times, for those of us getting up in age there, sleep gets more elusive. And so to get good quality sleep is actually harder. And so, let me ask real quick. It says, should we admit somebody who's in the waiting room?
Sorry, I'm taking care of those. Just keep
Okay,
going.
perfect. Okay. I got a little pop-up. So that's the time that your body physically restores itself. And so those are the nights that when you wake up and you feel really refreshed, you got good quality deep sleep, in addition to the light sleep. But it's that deep sleep that we really, it helps us physically feel better. All right, so just here's some cool things for anybody that's looking to lose weight. You're hearing more and more out there that you got to sleep to lose weight. Has anybody heard that? Okay, so what they're talking about is actually during these stages where it says REM, and that's that rapid eye movement, this is actually when you dream, you actually burn a great deal of calories in this light sleep stage of dreaming. And so the reason being is because when we dream, our brains are thinking, we start to move. And we think about your cat or dog, if you've ever seen them sleeping, they're twitching, they're moving, their heart rate goes up, your respiration goes up, you sweat. And so you actually are burning calories. So just a little tidbit, if you want to start to lose weight easier, sleep more, because those sleep cycles are actually burning calories and you don't have to go run it off. Okay, so you've got your sleep stages there. These are kind of, you ebb and flow. You do about 5 of these cycles a night of deep sleep, light sleep. You go through those, which is why they recommend about 7 to 9 hours. That's how long it takes us to get through those stages. But here's the cool thing for today. All right, so I want you to look here. Between around 2:30 a.m. and 5 a.m., okay, right here, you have 2 cycles of deep sleep. And they are called a circadian low. So you've heard of circadian rhythms, right? It's a Latin term. Circa means circle, diem means day. So a circadian rhythm is anything that follows a 24-hour cycle. So it's sleep, it's hormones, digestion, all of these things actually follow patterns. They don't just happen randomly. They actually are on a rhythm. And so one of these rhythms occurs every 12 hours, and this is the first of it. It's right here, the circadian low, okay? And so this is the time that you will usually have 2 deep sleep cycles. And the reason you know you're in deep sleep is because if something goes off in the house, a bomb could go off outside, you won't hear it. That is when you are dead asleep. And so it's, you know, if you ever had your spouse or kids come and wake you up and say, "Ah, you were dead asleep, didn't you hear me?" No, I was in deep sleep. So your body wants to be in deep sleep at those times of night, okay? So hang on to that because I'm going to come back to it in a minute. All right, so any questions on the sleep cycle or you want to know more about?
I'm like usually awake between 2 and 5 a.m.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, as we get older, and by older, it's that fun age of 40, when you start to get past that, the changes in your sleep cycles, and again, the circadian rhythms, your digestive tract, your hormones, it starts to make sleep harder. And so what we find more is people who get older and people who are often stressed have this 3 a.m. wake up. And I've talked to a lot of doctors about it, and it's basically what we think it is, because nobody really knows, is that first of all, right around 3 a.m., 2:33 a.m., you might be coming out of a cycle here. So maybe around 3:30, if that's when you're waking up, it might be that you're coming into a light sleep and you're being more aroused to wake up. Some of it has to do with the changes in the hormones that help keep you asleep. Melatonin starts to be more elusive as you get older. It's your brain actually just the structures that regulate sleep start to change, so it's harder to stay asleep. If you have possibly GERD, and pay attention, guys, if you are waking up in the middle of the night around 3 or about 4 hours after you go to bed, you could have what's called silent acid reflux, where you don't even realize that your stomach contents are kind of coming up, and it will raise your heart rate. It kind of panics, and even though you're asleep, it will wake you up. So there could be underlying things that cause us to wake up at night that we're not even aware of that are happening. So good question, and it's unfortunately fairly common, and that's something at the end we can talk about too. If you're dealing with high levels of stress, adrenaline, cortisol, it'll all wreck your sleep, and you'll have a hard time having this nice, lovely little sleep curve. Good question. Anybody else have a question on this? Awesome. Okay. So now let me show you another circadian rhythm. So this is cortisol, and we've all probably heard of the hormone cortisol. It's a stress hormone. Its function is to help us, but in great quantities, it can hurt us in the sense that it stimulates the stress response. In normal healthy quantities, it's one of the things that helps you wake up. And so it's actually cortisol that in the morning got you up today. And so yes, you had coffee and the alarm might have gone off, but within an hour of waking up, it's really that cortisol that's like kicking your body into gear. So let me show you how cortisol works. And this is really for somebody who's on a typical day schedule, work, 9 to 5 kind of thing, not night shift. So what happens is we early in the morning, around 3, 4 a.m. Sorry, I'm trying to get my cursor moved. There we go. So around 5, 6, all of a sudden it starts to peak and go up, 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 up. And so cortisol actually peaks right around 8:30 in the morning, okay? Right around here. And so this is the time that after you woke up out of bed and you're struggling, and then if you notice within about an hour of struggling, you're like, okay, I'm good. And then you start to move and then you actually start to feel good. That's cortisol. And so cortisol actually spikes in the morning. Like I said, its purpose is to wake you up. It spikes, it keeps going around noon, and then right around noon, 1 o'clock, it starts falling, and it really has a big dip around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. After that time, it starts to slowly go down further. So if you see here, it says decelerating, winding down, and so that's what's happening. And then again in the morning, hours 3, 4, 5, 6, it starts to go up. All right, so why am I showing you guys this? Who cares? All right, well, this is why I want you to care. Because there is some really cool science coming out saying that the time of day matters to whatever it is we're doing. And so, remember I mentioned that circadian low? It happens between about 2 and 5 a.m., but 12 hours later, it happens again. And so today, actually when we're done with this call, start to pay attention to when you feel tired. So anything from like, oh, I can't focus, to active yawning, to I'm actually dipping, falling asleep. You're hitting your circadian low. And we have it every day, and it happens the same time of day. So you got to pay attention to when yours hits. Mine hits at 2:30. I know what time it is just because I can feel the dip. And that's why it's called the dip today, the 2 o'clock dip, is because we start to actually have that physical circadian low hit around 2 o'clock, okay? And so there have been some studies coming out, look how time of day affects your performance. And so Cornell University actually looked at tweets. They looked at Twitter and wanted to see, did time of day have any effect on how people tweeted? And what they found was the mean nasty tweets seemed to come out in the afternoon between 2 and 5, and the happy tweets come out between 9 and noon. And then they sparked again happy tweets in the evening after about 6. And so there's this, and it was a very big study. I want to say they looked at 80 countries and like 5 million tweets over like 2-year span. So it was a lot of data, and it was regardless of culture, regardless of wherever you lived, there was this thing about the time of day and how we behaved. So remember I mentioned too, at 8:30 in the morning, we're also finding that this is about the time that most people go number 2, is because cortisol gets your digestive tract moving. So it's the time that it wakes you up and you're going, and then remember with or so, pay attention, you usually have to go number 2 to the bathroom because your colon's waking up. Thank you, cortisol. So there's your little tip for the day. What's going on with your body? So here's another interesting thing. So we have times of day that make us feel happy. We're alert, we're productive, we feel good. Times of day, our circadian low, where we're falling asleep, our concentration is off, our reaction time is slow, our memory is slow, we're irritable, and that's in the afternoon. But also know that after being awake 13 hours, the science is showing that this is us waking up, we do good for about 13 hours, and then we take a nosedive. So let's say you woke up at 6 a.m. today. At 7 tonight, that'll be 13 hours later, you're gonna really start to feel fatigued and tired. Try doing something productive at that time. Not going to work. Try, doing your taxes or balancing your checkbook. You're going to be struggling because your body after 13 hours gets tired. So the takeaway for today is what you do when matters, and very much time of day does affect your performance. So knowing that, is there a way that we can start to design our day to answer those questions in the beginning that I asked you of, can we feel less stressed? Can we be more productive? Can we be more influential? Get that interview, get that new sale. What do we do? And so I want you to start to think of a way to redesign your day. So let's pretend here's your clock for the day, right? Start to think of what can I shift and what can I move around if I've got team meetings, if I've got staff calls I've got to do, if I've got to have one-on-ones. Let me show you how to redesign your day better. So basically, knowing what we know now about cortisol and circadian rhythms, between about 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning, people are still physically waking up. And so if you've ever had meetings, early morning meetings, and people are not contributing, they're not even attending, or if they are attending, like I said, they're like zombies, they're not saying anything, they're physically wiped out, their bodies are still waking up. So I don't recommend having crucial meetings or talks or anything like that in the early hours. Let people start to get back, their bodies moving back awake, let them ease into their work. One of the best things you can do is actually have bright light, or have yourself go out for a morning walk, or sit out, a lot of us are still working from home, go out and sit on the patio, but have that sunlight, because sunlight is actually the thing that regulates our circadian rhythms. So go out there and get, back into the light, and it'll wake you up. Okay, but those first few hours, try to do that. Then move into your morning routine and make the most crucial things that you need to get done between around 8:30 and 11. I'll even give you till noon. So basically between 8:30 and noon, that's when you do your most crucial work. That's when you do any type of analytical work. So anything that requires math or thinking of some type that you have to do structure and analysis, do it in the morning. Do your taxes in the morning. If you are looking to land a new client, you want to get sales and that kind of thing, do it in the morning. You're more influential then, because you're in a really good mood, and so are they. And so you're not fighting that afternoon dip. You've got their attention, and it's just people are happier in the morning. So that's when you go after sales and new clients. If you want to do some kind of keynote, educational class, do it in the morning, because the research is showing that people are more perceptive and receptive to getting feedback about their performance and learning new things. And so this is a great time to do performance reviews, especially if they're difficult and you know it's not going to go great. Do it in the morning, okay? In the afternoon, we often tend to sit at our desks and have lunch, or we just skip lunch and we rush through it. And what the research is finding is that the more stress you have, the more important social interaction, and it doesn't have to be physical. It can just be this, where you're talking to another human. But that 1 hour of lunch is really critical for your mental health, your recovery, and actually your performance. So don't just rush through lunch. Try to make at least once a week a concerted effort to talk with a friend or a colleague, or if you're at home, spend time with the family during that lunch hour. It actually helps you as a stress relief. And then last, you say, oh, well, maybe she said it at 2 o'clock, we're all falling asleep, so we probably should just take a nap or end our day. Well, you could do that, or you could do something else, which is actually creative work, strategic work, any type of organizational, like cleaning up the house, filing, that kind of thing. Your brain actually does better in the afternoon with more of the abstract type of thinking. So this is a great time to think about a business plan, or come up with what do we want to do? What's the new model? What's the vision statement? If you're maybe a writer or an artist, this is the time of day that you should write, or you should do those types of activities. We do better with innovative work, and our imaginations kind of run wild when we're a little tired. So use that time of day for that type of work. If you're actually really physically tired, though, you got to get up and move. And so the worst thing to do, and if you've ever noticed, if you're in a meeting at work and at 2, 3 o'clock, the manager calls a meeting and you're just falling asleep, you don't want to just sit through a circadian low. You want to get up, you want to move around. So if you can, go to the gym, go outside for a short walk, have a standing meeting if you have to have some kind of staff meeting or something. But you got to get up and move around, especially if you didn't sleep well last night. It's going to hit you today, and it'll be harder to get through that circadian low. So I'm going to pause right here and see, do any of you have any questions on this, on how you should design your day? No?
So
Yeah.
it's Jen again. I kind of feel like I'm 2 hours off of this.
Okay. Gotcha. In which
Like,
direction?
I feel most productive, or my mind becomes kind of awake and I'm ready to deal with either customer facing work or analytical work around 10 a.m.
Okay.
I need quiet. I actually block off my calendar from 8:30 to 10 because if I get interrupted, get pissed off.
Gotcha.
I'm not necessarily, like, I'm probably at work and I'm probably doing emails, or I'm probably, there's a couple of newsletters that I'd like to read every morning, like email newsletters that bring me up to speed on tech or whatever I'm working on. And
Right.
like, if somebody walks in and wants to talk to me in that window, it freaks me out. So I feel like I'm shifted to like an hour and a half or 2 hours from this.
Gotcha. So are you a little bit more of a night owl?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So totally normal then. And I didn't even talk about this, but we all have kind of a chronotype, meaning you're more of a morning person, more of a night person, or just kind of the, middle of the bell curve. Most people are in the middle of the curve where we can do 7 a.m. to 7 at night, go to bed around, 11, get up at 6, 7, we're okay. But then you have on the tail ends of the bell curve, you've got the morning people and then the evening people. And so for you, you probably actually get a kick in the evening to do things. You're probably easier staying up till midnight or 1. And it doesn't affect you like it would somebody like me. At midnight or 1, I'm just dropping. So just know that for you, your clock has just shifted a little bit because you tend to do better in the evenings. For you, an early morning start of like 6, 7 is probably not fun. And so you're just shifted a little bit. So just be aware that you have a time where you work better. And I'm glad you've noticed that. And I love that you've blocked your time off, because so many people don't do that. They just give their day away to whoever comes and takes it. So just know that you've got to really land some things between about, 10 to 1 for people that if you're trying to go after, meetings or clients or something, that's their window. But that's okay. You have that.
When I took this new job, it was 2 years ago now, but I told my boss, I said, look, I gotta be honest, like this 8:30 to 5 thing really doesn't work for me. I'm more of a 10 to 7 person.
Nice. And I wish more people that worked in companies actually knew this, what we're talking about today, and understood that there are those of us who work better in the evenings, or work better waking up at 5 a.m. and going in the mornings. And if you could just have 2 days a week that fits your chronotype, you would be so much more productive, because you're in that zone of your physiology that works for you versus forcing it to fit everybody. Because some of us we don't. But I really like that you've blocked that time. Good. Yay. Good for you. Awesome. Any questions? And I'm going to stop here because it's interesting. I didn't talk too much at all actually about it, but anybody have kids or teenagers and want to know why the heck they stay up till 1 a.m. and sleep till noon? No? All right, well, I'll give you the answer. If you have children or grandchildren, or think back when you were a kid, between, I would say, like when you're a little kid, little toddler, up till about 11 years old, we tend to be early birds. Our chronotype tends to kick off at 6, 7 a.m. We're raring to go. We can get to school at 8. It's really no problem. And that's a hormone thing, because around 12 until almost 25 years old, what happens is our chemistry basically changes, and we switch from morning to evening people. And so if you've got high school age kids, middle schoolers, college or right after college, and you're able to stay up to, or they are, staying up till midnight, 1 a.m., and then they sleep until 11 or 12 the next day, and you're going, what the heck? It's just actually a hormone shift that moves them into a different sleep type. And so after about 25, we switch back more towards being just the middle of the day, that bell curve type of person. But then when we hit about 60, we start to move the other way. And it's not consistent for everybody, but it's a trend that most of us go through. About 60, 65, we start to go the other way, where we start to be more morning people. And so if you see or can think of your grandparents or, other folks in their, late 60s, 70s, 80s, they go to bed at 7, 8, 9 p.m., but then they're up at 4 a.m. But then they take, naps all during the day. So it's just the changing in the structures of the brain and the chemistry. But don't get too mad at your kids or your grandkids if they're sleeping till noon or 11. It's just their hormones are changing. All right, so coffee. When do I have coffee? So let me tell you, you're gonna have coffee if you drink caffeine. I'd like you to do it a different way, because we're a caffeine addicted society, mostly because we're a sleep deprived society. But there actually are two key times to have caffeine. So let me go over the most crucial one. And so let me back up a second and say this. Your homework for today, and it's going to be really easy because it'll be right after this call. I want you to pay attention to when your 2 p.m. dip starts to hit. It might hit you at 1:30 or 2, 2:30 or 3, but pay attention to when you get tired. Once you know what that time is, then tomorrow, I want you to have caffeine 30 minutes before that dip. So let's say your dip today is at 2:30, okay? Tomorrow, have your Coke, sweet tea, cup coffee, whatever, at 2. And here's why. Caffeine takes about 30 minutes to kick in. And so if you can have that caffeine 30 minutes before your dip hits, when the dip comes, you won't go so deep into it. You'll just have much less effects. And so if you didn't sleep well last night, the dip will hit you very hard. And if you didn't sleep well for like 2 nights in a row, it's really going to hit you. And so you need to know when to use caffeine as a mitigator to get you through those tough days. So when you do have crucial meetings and calls and things that you can't get out of, you're going to have to be able to get through that dip better. So that's when you have your caffeine, your coffee is 30 minutes prior to hitting your dip. The second time is in the morning. And so if you're one of those that shoot out of bed and the first thing you do is get yourself a cup of coffee, I'd like you to try and wait. Try and wait about an hour to an hour and a half after you have woken up, then have your coffee. The reason is it's that cortisol. The cortisol will just naturally start to wake you up, and you won't have to have so much caffeine in your system to alert you. Your body will do it naturally, but you got to let it do it. So give it the hour, hour and a half, then have the coffee. This also helps you because you don't have to have as much caffeine. If you've allowed cortisol to kick in and do its work, you need less. And so instead of chugging it in the morning, right, like literally within 20 minutes, 30 minutes of waking, wait, because when you do that, you actually need to consume more in order to get yourself alert and up. So in the morning, hour and a half after you wake. In the afternoon, 30 minutes before your dip. That's when you have caffeine. Questions on that one?
I try not to have any caffeine after noon.
That's fine. If
so
you
that
can,
it won't affect my sleep.
perfect.
But I'm going to have to figure out where my dip is. I think my dip is probably between 3 and 4.
So for you, if you're a night owl, it's going to be later in the day. So that's good. And I'm not a big caffeine drinker because I'm very sensitive to it. So even when I have decaf coffee, I'm like, So be aware how caffeine affects you. But, and I love that you mentioned it earlier, I'm waking up at night. Pay attention that if you are having caffeine after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, caffeine has a half-life of basically half the caffeine. Half-life means half of the amount of caffeine is still in your body at a certain amount of time. So basically 6 hours after having caffeine, you still have half that caffeine in your body. So if I said, say I have 100 milligrams of caffeine at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I still have 50 of it 9 o'clock at night. It's still in my system and it will affect my sleep cycles. So if you've got caffeine flowing through you, you can't hit those deep sleep cycles, and it will also wake you up throughout the night. So just be aware if you're struggling with your sleep, do exactly what you said and actually don't have it past 2 o'clock, even 1 or 12. Good. Ladies, Luna, Caitlin, Kim, anybody else have any questions on these? Okay. So now here's the good stuff. What about alcohol? Alcohol is a way many people use to knock themselves out to go to bed. So let me teach you how to do it a little bit better. Here's the thing. When you have alcohol, it actually affects your deep sleep cycles. So if you've ever really had alcohol and you had a great time at your party, you're having with your friends, drinking at night, watching a great movie, and you went to bed, if you paid attention, you didn't sleep very well. it knocked you out. Yes, you fell right asleep, but your sleep was very disturbed. You dreamt a lot. You heard things all night long. And so you woke up not feeling refreshed. And the reason is because, remember that first graph I showed you, you can't fall into deep sleep cycles very well when you have alcohol in your system. So what do? Give up drinking? All right, well, I want you to do it better. If you, let's say you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, you really need to stop drinking alcohol by 6, 7 o'clock at night, because it takes 3 or 4 hours to get the toxins of the alcohol out of your system so that it doesn't affect your sleep. So drink, but just try to stop drinking within 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed. One of the ways to speed up that process of getting it out of your system is for every glass of wine, every beer, every shot, have a bottle of 16 ounces of water to chase it and get it out of your system. Then it won't affect your deep sleep cycle. Okay. And I recommend switching to a different type of red drink because, you know, red wine, it's going to affect your sleep. It does knock you out, but you won't sleep well. I actually recommend cherry juice. And so cherry juice is naturally, or cherries are naturally high in melatonin, which is the thing that helps you fall asleep. And so, and you can Google this, there's been several studies on cherry juice or eating cherries. And so about an 8 ounce, which is, it's not much, 8 ounces is little, 8 ounce glass of juice for about a week to 2 weeks really starts to build up the natural levels of melatonin in the brain. And that will help you start to fall asleep better. Just a little drink of cherry juice. And you can drink it at any time. You don't have to do it like right before bedtime. It's one of those anytime kind of things. And so I'm going to stop there and say it's enough for you to absorb all this stuff today about sleep and circadian rhythms. But if you are interested, you can Google me, and I've got my info on my blackboard here. But I write for the Savannah Morning News. I do a lot of articles on performance and things on sleep, stress, anxiety, jet lag, all kinds of things that affect how we perform at work. And so that is me, and I hope you guys got something out of it. And so now I am going to open it up to all of you and see if you have any individual questions or particular questions, and I can help you with.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. Any questions from our other participants?
Awesome.
I always have questions. So.
And I can help you, like you said, with kids. I can explain things. There's some really cool research looking at, let's see if I can go back and find some of my slides, looking at children and going to school, and should we really consider having a later start time for kids in middle school and high school? Because according to, like I said, the research looking at hormone changes, they are like struggling to get out of bed by, 8, 9 a.m. on a school day. So to have it start at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, even 8:30 is early. And so I know my kids in particular, they're both in middle school and one's going into high school. When our school kind of shifted from the COVID thing, they shifted their class schedule. Instead of starting so early, my kids actually did better in class. They just felt less stressed. They're like, I'm actually awake. I can actually pay attention in math. And so much had to do with just shifting the time of day to fit their rhythms. And so the test scores, there's a bunch of studies you can Google on standardized testing and time of day, that when you have math and science and analytical type things in the morning, so if you can put those subjects here and then put English, reading, creative writing, band, drama in the afternoon, the kids actually do better in those versus flipping it, where when you have math at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and everyone's just dipping, they don't do as well. So if your kids are struggling in school, just look at what time of day they're taking what class, and that actually might have a profound effect on their performance.
Yeah, I wonder how much my work schedule from earlier in my career impacts me being a night owl. Because I was a coder, software developer. So I coded a lot at night. That's like when I felt my most creative.
So we tend to just more of a genetic thing of if you're more of a night person or a day person. So it probably wasn't the coding and the type of work that had you that way. You just did better, and you were already designed that way. Your body just tended to be more of a night person. Mm-hmm. The hard thing is finding a job or a boss that allows you to work with that and says, keep working at 11, you do better. And you can come into work at 10 a.m. Most bosses will be like, right.
That's where being an entrepreneur comes into play.
That's
I
right.
think, Luana, do you have a question? Luana?
I just was wondering, it's interesting that you were talking about children, just what like if they were able to get on some sort of a really good schedule during the week, and then it all gets thrown out the window over the weekend, like what, and even for adults as well, what the impact is of not keeping that same schedule 7 days a week.
Good question. So let me explain a little bit. It's called sleep debt. So when we don't get a good night's sleep, we accumulate a debt. It's kind of like going to the bank. And so it's like you're pulling resources from your system when it doesn't get enough sleep. And so when we start to go off, and this is why they always tell you, try to still wake up at the same time in the weekends as during the week, because if you accumulate a sleep debt, and so for instance, say maybe, and we all kind of know how many hours we all need to sleep well. So let's say I need 7 hours, you need 8 hours. If you're only getting like 6 hours last night, you have a debt of 2 hours. Say tonight, you only get 7 hours, you have another debt of an hour. So you're accumulating a debt through the week. It takes 3 days of a solid good sleep to fill that debt, to replenish it, to fix it. So when we do either a great week and then we blow it on the weekend, or we sleep in all weekend and recover, but then we mess up the week, you're constantly in debt recovery kind of phase. And so just be aware that whether it's you or your kids, again, if you're getting too short of amount of sleep, add up those numbers that they didn't sleep well, and that's how much debt that they're carrying, and then they bring it into the school week, and then it throws them off. So just pay attention for that, and then for them as well. You can recover sleep. Most people say, oh, once you lost it, you actually can recover it, meaning you can get back up to a good, normal feeling, but you are carrying that debt. And know that when you're in those days that you haven't got enough sleep, you don't perform as well. That part you can't fix. So performance means your reaction time, your ability to concentrate, recall things. So I'm thinking of the kids in school, when they're tired, they don't perform as well. And so performance, you're really looking at, productivity and accuracy and quality of work. So when you start to see those things slip, look at how much sleep they're getting and if they're carrying a debt. I don't know if I answered your question or not on that.
You did, totally. And I hadn't even thought about it being like a debt. I certainly know, that you feel more tired when you haven't gotten enough sleep, but to think about it in that way, I mean, I'm pretty much always an early riser, so it's hard for me. On the weekend, I get up and I'm like, are you guys still in bed, really? And I feel like, how is this not ruining your day?
Yeah.
And I mean, now that I think about it taking 3 days after you've had sort of a bad night or didn't get enough sleep, that's absolutely right. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And the reason why it takes about 3 days is because, let's say you're carrying a debt of starting Monday night, you didn't sleep great. Tuesday, you didn't sleep. It takes, all those days, it adds up. So let's say 5 work days, you've got 5 days of a debt of 5 hours. You don't then sleep 15 hours on Saturday to make up for it. It's little each night. And I always think of like little street sweepers. They're cleaning the streets and the head, and they're fixing the muscles. And so
yeah,
that's what's happening. And so they're out there, they're trying to repair and fix things. And so the quality, so you might fall into that deep sleep much quicker. It might be longer. So that's the quality of sleep you'll get. It might be the quantity. So you might get an extra hour. You sleep in on Saturday, 1 more hour, but it takes 3 days of that quantity and quality to get you back up to normal. If that makes sense.
It does.
So,
it definitely does.
And so I am a fan of, if you do have kids and they're in activities, they're going all week, we're making them get up at 6 a.m. to get the bus, 7 a.m. We're pushing them completely out of their natural body rhythms. They are carrying a debt. So I'm an advocate for let them sleep in on Saturday, let them sleep in on Sunday, because they've got to recover that debt. The hard thing is you don't want them, if they've got to wake up at 7 a.m. on Monday, yet on Sunday they slept till noon. It's hard to do. And that's why you got to be aware of the debt that they're accumulating, because you're always in catch-up mode. You're just never going to catch up on that sleep. So it's hard.
Well, thank you.
Yes. And I'm an advocate of napping, huge advocate of napping.
Oh yes, I love a good nap.
Yes. So and here's the trick to napping. If you can take a 30-minute nap, the reason why I recommend 30 minutes for a day that you've got stuff to do, 30 minutes allows for that cognitive restoration. So you can think more clearly, more calmly, and you don't feel so emotionally reacting to things and irritable. Once you get past 30 minutes though, you actually go into deep sleep. And those are the naps that when you woke up, you felt like I had a horrible hangover.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you got into too far of deep sleep and your body is still trying to get out of that. And so 30 minutes is a good recovery time to then, wake up and go about your business. If you're on a Saturday and you really want to take a long nap, try to do an hour-and-a-half nap, because then you get a full cycle of a deep sleep and a light sleep. And then you can wake up and feel normal and not that horrible groggy hangover.
Okay. That is helpful also, because I think that I try to do like a 20-minute nap, and I'll set my alarm on my phone because I don't want to go too long. And but then I've got to like snooze it at least a couple times. So it ends up being 30 anyway. So I think 30 is the magic number. So
yeah, so I would give yourself about, since it's middle of the day, it's going to take you about, we'll say 5 to 10 minutes to fall asleep. So you need 10 there. Then you can actually give yourself the 30 to sleep. And then you actually want to give yourself another, like have your alarm go off. So set it for actually a 40-minute nap. You'll get solid 30 in there. But then remember, you don't want like an important call or something right after, because you have to get over, it's called sleep inertia. You have to get over that like funky feeling. And it takes you about 15 minutes or so to do that. So make sure you account for that grogginess after.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and one more tip on that one. If you want to take a nap, have your caffeine. Caffeine kicks in about 30 minutes and the caffeine will naturally wake you up.
Oh yeah, I know about a good caffeine nap.
Okay.
Thank you. You wake up feeling amazing.
Yes. And we actually do that. So I worked in the aerospace industry for over a decade, and we used to do that with crew and mechanics and pilots, that when they're flying or working on aircraft and they would take naps, we were out at Gulfstream. That's good, because if you're flying and you're flying from like here to China, you're going to be your pilots are in those circadian, they're human. They're going to have those dips. You don't want them landing the plane when they're in a dip. So they would take a nap, and we would have them do the caffeine, take a nap, and then wake up, so that you can actually get back to performing better, because that's what caffeine does. It's an alert, type of drug. It helps you focus. And so it helps with that. And we use it in air traffic controllers and pilots. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yes. And now it freaks you out when you fly, and you're like, are you in a dip?
I know. Really?
Don't fly between 2 and 5. Or have surgery. Yeah, you don't want surgery in the afternoon. Always have surgery in the morning.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Early.
Good questions. What else you guys got?
Any other questions? If not, we'll call it a wrap. Let everyone get back to their busy days. I think our next, actually we're not having a lunchtime topic next week. Instead, we're promoting an event for TAG, the Technology Association of Georgia, on supply chain. Specifically, being a port city, supply chain is very important to Savannah. So on Tuesday at lunchtime, we are supporting and advertising, promoting people to attend a TAG talk with the CEO of UPS and some other, the port and some other large companies, to talk about what do they think the supply chain, or how are they dealing with supply chain issues today, and what do they think it looks like in a post-COVID world. So kind of a little bit of a tech talk about what's going on in our world today, specifically around the Port of Georgia and what happens around here. So that'll be next Tuesday. And thanks for joining us. And thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Pilzic.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.